Oh, hey, grinding. Have the whole front end off and the front radiator core support. Now we're getting down to the block and the dual clutch transmission. Of course, this block is full of water. So when they saw that at the yard, that made them reduce the price because it is in pretty bad shape. The cylinders all rusted out. But of course, I will be putting new forged pistons in it and having it re-bored out. But that's enough for the talking. Let's get back to the nitty-gritty and get this block out of this car in dual clutch transmission so that we can continue to film more videos on it once I get it. But if I stand here talking, I may not get the block and won't have the content to post. Okay, this is crazy. I have the motor lifted in here and the screw is loose, so the whole motor is rocking really bad. So I have to take this out of this wheelbarrow and put it into this one and lift the transmission, carry it up front real quick. I got less than 25 minutes. Okay, the S5 is getting a little lower. It's an engine block in the car. And now I have to squeeze this transmission in there. I had to take off the support bracket with the alternator and the cooler for the oil filter housing. So now I'll try to roll this heavy baby in a dual clutch DQ 250 transmission. So we got everything in the S5. Now I have to pack up my tools, put this in the car, and we'll be on our way. Mission complete. Okay, I picked up a 2-liter TDI engine. One thing that I discovered is this is pretty nice. The fittings, the coolant lines that go into through the firewall for the heater coil, these have a tight radius 90, so that way it can stay and keep clearance from the turbo. So this will work great as far as using on this car. If we have to come off the firewall, come down into a tight 90, and both of these are tight radius 90s that give some pretty good clearance. That will allow, and I'll just give an example, these fittings like this to come off the wall and go straight down as a tight radius 90, which is awesome. That'll give some nice clearance from the turbo housing. But either way, my plan is I do have some aluminum fittings that I ordered. If the metal is somewhat good, not cheap pot metal, and you can weld on them, I will slice the aluminum pipe and cut it into a 90, so that way we'll still have a nice aluminum 90 that'll come off and we don't have to worry about too much heat melting the plastic tubing itself. And then when we come off with that aluminum fitting, we can then wrap the hose and then keep straight off. Or I can weld on that AN fitting if, as I stated, the aluminum fitting is pretty good as far as welding on, and weld on a 90 AN fitting and come off with some type of tube or pipe that will withstand the heat from all of this turbo exhaust manifold generated heat. Now, another note, I am currently running a TDI block also in my GTI race car, but this still will be a nice upgrade because this is a newer generation 2.0 TDI block. My plans is to eventually possibly convert over to the 20 valve 1.8T liter head. Now, as you can see, this tube right here, this is a nice huge fitting for oil return right here. The block has all sorts of webbing and reinforcement for the diesel block. So this should be a pretty stout block, as well as it has a forged crank. So this is a pretty nice setup right here. You can see that the oil pan also has several baffles in it for oil control. This would be a nice addition for a built engine for the race car. So I'm back at salvage yard here to grab the shifter assembly from out this 2013 Passat for the GTI. Yesterday I didn't have enough time to get the shifter linkage because I was busy removing the engine and transmission. So this was a 2013 TDI. Okay, now I'm under the car. I just pulled out the heat shielding from underneath. Had to remove the motor mount out of the way. It was already pretty much cut up because they cut the cats off the car, and you can see they cut the pipes out of the way. So that definitely made it a little bit easier for removal. So then we'll remove this padding to gain access to the bottom, this insulation. of the shifter linkage right there. I'll take those screws out of the bottom and drop it down and take the cable and the whole shifter assembly in one piece. Back inside the car, so in order to drop this shifter assembly down, I had to take off this side cover. So it's plastic trim right here. Take the screws out and it pulls down, and I can gain access to the 4 bolts and these studs that's sticking up, and gain access to these nuts and remove these nuts, the 2 up front and the 2 back there at the rear, and that way I can drop the whole assembly down. So it's definitely good to have some good tools, or I have a flex head 10mm wrench, and I can use this to gain access to that. So I took the screw out right here under the bottom, pull the cover down, and then I can gain access to these bolts and the nuts. Okay, I'm at another salvage yard, and this is a Wolfsburg MK2 diesel. So it appears the diesel cars have been the donor for my GTI. Came here to get the shifter linkage. I wound down the windows because it's filthy inside, so I can get a little air circulation. But I came here to get the shifter console, because this console will bolt right up into my MK2 GTI and made up under my dash, so it'll be a little better looking and aesthetic instead of just having a plain shifter just sticking up. Plus it's plastic and it's very lightweight. This was far easier to remove than the one out of the Passat. It was one screw holding it, and then I just had to slide it forward to get these 2 pins out, but the screw was rusted into the body of here, so this plastic tab just broke off and the whole piece slid back off of these 2 pins and just brought the whole thing out, twisted sideways, and then lifted it up. But it's no big deal because this whole piece pops up and I can still mount it from under here, so it's really no big deal at all. And I can always secure it anywhere up under this cover. I can run a bolt through here or somewhere else, under here, through the floor, or even in the back just to secure it. So when it is, I got it. Clean it up, get it ready for the GTI. And a dual clutch transmission shifter. So I had the shifter assembly out, but one funny thing is this car had an Alpine radio. Remember back in the day when Alpine was the joint, it was the stuff. Having a nice Alpine system in your car. But this car been through some stuff. You can see where bees like made nests up in here, all up against the back door panel where the latch is, and this car has mildew everywhere. It's just, this is toxic all around the window sill and everything. So just getting this out could be a potential hazard. And this donor car was a 1989 Volkswagen MK2 Jetta that I got the shifter console out. TDI. Wolfsburg's edition. And this car has so much mold and mildew on it, spiders are blended in with the aesthetics of the car. All the mold that's on here. So while I'm here, I decided to get the driver's side and the passenger side under console dash components. Just to have, I may put it in the car. I mean, it's lightweight. I know at race cars we're always trying to get them down light as possible, but it's pretty nice and kind of historic piece to have, and possibly mount in the car just to have that whole complete assembly, old school with the new school adaptation.